and after all the weather was ideal. They could not have had a more perfect day for a garden party if they had ordered it. Windless, warm, the sky without a cloud. Only the blue was veiled with a haze of light gold, as it is sometimes in early summer. The gardener had been up since dawn, mowing the lawns and sweeping them until the grass and the dark flat rosettes where the daisy plants had been seemed to shine. As for the roses, you could not help feeling they understood that roses are the only flowers that impress people at garden parties, the only flowers that everybody is certain of knowing. Hundreds, yes, literally hundreds, had come out in a single night. The green bushes bowed down as though they had been visited by archangels. Breakfast was not yet over before the men came to put up the marquee. Laura, with her bread and butter still in her hand, went out to supervise. She felt just like a work girl and loved it. 4 men in their shirt sleeves stood grouped together on the garden path. They carried staves covered with rolls of canvas, and they had big tool bags slung on their backs. They looked impressive. Laura wished now that she had not got the bread and butter, but there was nowhere to put it, and she couldn't possibly throw it away. She went forward. "Good morning," she said, copying her mother's voice. But that sounded so fearfully affected that she was ashamed and stammered like a little girl. The tallest of the men, a lanky, freckled fellow, turned and answered, "That's right, miss," easily, and he turned to his work. What nice eyes he had, small, but such a dark blue. And now, there was nothing to be shy about. She felt just like a work girl herself. It's all the fault of these absurd class distinctions, she decided. Well, for her part, she didn't feel them. Not a bit. Not an atom. And she went back to the house with the flag flying. Laura was helping her sister, Jose, practice the piano when their cook appeared, distressed, with a piece of news. A young man, Scott, a carter, had been killed that very morning. His horse had shied at a traction engine, and he had been flung onto the back of his head. He was dead before they could even lift him. Laura stopped the piano at once. "Oh, how horrible," she cried. "Stop the garden party, of course. Why should we be gay when there are people like that just down the lane?" She said it more than once, but Jose was unmoved. "You won't bring him back by being miserable," she said practically. "Besides, think of the florist, the marquis, the band." Their mother, too, was astonished. "People like that don't expect sacrifices from us," she said. And then, as though to settle the matter entirely, she produced a soft, black velvet hat with a long, black velvet ribbon and placed it on Laura's dark hair. Laura looked at herself in the mirror, and the dead man receded, and the party was a great success. The afternoon sun was warm enough to make the Japanese umbrellas seem a touch heavy. The band was playing so beautifully that for a moment Laura felt that she and the music were almost one. There were strawberries and cream, cakes iced in pale gold, little finger sandwiches, jugs of lemonade. Everywhere, people she knew moved easily across the lawn, laughing, greeted, pleased with themselves and one another. Laura herself moved through it all as if in a dream, charmed by the perfume of flowers, by the sound of happy voices. But once, near the marquee, she stopped. She had a queer feeling, a sudden odd consciousness that somewhere beneath all this brightness, something darker lay very still. Then a neighbor called her name, and she smiled forward. By the time the last guests had gone and the band was folding away their music, the lemon-colored evening had come, and the feeling had passed. The garden lay exhausted in the fading light. "Laura," said her mother, "take these scraps to the Scotts down the lane. There is more than enough food here, and it would be a kindness. Take this basket." Laura looked at the remains of the party, sandwiches, cakes, puffs, and felt suddenly ashamed of them. Still, she put on her coat and took up the big basket. The lane was dark after the brightness of the house. She passed the little cottages and heard voices, children laughing somewhere. When she found the right gate, she hesitated. A woman, young, thin-faced, opened the door, and Laura stammered her reason for coming. The woman looked at her with wonder and then, without speaking, stood aside. Inside, several people sat very still in the low-ceilinged room. A very old woman with a mournful face held a handkerchief to her eyes. The young woman touched Laura's sleeve. "Would you like to look?" she whispered. And before Laura had thought to refuse, she was being led through the room and down a passage to a small, dark door. He was lying on a narrow bed. He was covered. In the fading light, his face, young and remote, wore an expression Laura had never seen on any living face. It was wonderful, beautiful even. Wonderful how he lay, like a picture, like a young hero sleeping while they were laughing and dancing and eating. He had been here. And it came to her again, that queer feeling. But it was different now. He was far from all those things. She could not take her eyes from his face. Happy. He was happy. That was it. "All is well," said that sleeping face. "It is just as it should be. I am content." Laura did not know how long she stood there. When she turned away, she was crying. She could not understand why she was crying. The young woman was still waiting in the passage. Laura whispered something. She did not know what, and turned. The basket was still in her hands. She pressed it into the woman's arms and walked quickly back through the low room, through the dark gate, and out into the lane. It was growing dark. Lights were in the windows of the little cottages behind her, and above the lane, a great star had come out. Laura walked quickly, and then she saw at the corner of the lane a tall figure waiting. It was her brother Laurie. "Is that you, Laura?" "Yes." "How was it?" "It was simply marvelous," said Laura. "But Laurie..." She stopped. She looked at her brother. "Isn't life..." she stammered. "Isn't life..." But what life was, she couldn't explain. No matter. He quite understood. "Isn't it, darling?" said Laurie.